Bonjour et bienvenue à notre réunion de midi. Aujourd'hui, c'est jeudi 8 janvier. Nous ne sommes pas encore vus en salle de presse depuis les vacances, donc bonne année à tous. Nous n'avons pas d'annonce pour vous aujourd'hui et donc passons directement à vos questions. Who wants to start? Jorge, go ahead.
Hello, Ariana. I want to ask you about the rising tensions between Europe and the United States over the fate of Greenland. Could you clarify for us if Greenland, despite not being part of the European Union, could benefit from the mutual assistance clause that is enshrined in the EU treaties in Article 42.7? And have you already begun examining the possibility of activating this article in the context of a possible US intervention to seize Greenland? Thank you.
Thanks, Jorge. I think our views on Greenland have been clarified at length both yesterday and, on Tuesday and on Monday here in the press room. Also, you have seen that the President has given a speech yesterday during the launch of the Cypriot presidency and has made a reference to Greenland herself on this article specifically. I'm looking at my colleagues, but I understand we will need to check and we will eventually revert. At this stage. We don't have a specific comment. Jorge.
Yes, yesterday the French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said that France was working already on a plan to protect Greenland against a possible US intervention. He said that he would like this plan to be part of a European dimension and, discuss with European partners. Do you support this French initiative to develop a plan, a European plan to protect Greenland? Are you in touch with Paris? And what would you like to have included in this plan? Thank you.
Again, if Anita wants to jump in, she's more than welcome to do so. What I can say at this stage is that we are in constant contact with our member states. Of course, this is a very important matter for our union. Greenland is something on which we have been working actively since many years, are developing our partnership with them, and this engagement continues. Also in these matters, we do speak with all member states, including France, but I don't think that at this stage we have specific comments on this announcement that we have seen in the press. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ariana. Jerome Hughes here. It's on the same subject, but it's perhaps a more general question. I mean, given the unprecedented low levels of cooperation, consultation, even threats from the US side to the EU on a whole range of key policy areas, is it not the case that EU-US relations have never been so poor? They're dire. They're barely on life support.
What I can say is that the US remains a strategic partner of our union, and with them, as with all other partners, we work actively in the areas where there are common interests, and we will continue to do so, of course, in the various topics where we share interests, as I was saying. Francesca, sorry, you have a follow-up.
Thanks for that. But you say in areas where you have common interests. I mean, when you look at the United States bypassing the EU in terms of trying to get a deal on Ukraine by going directly to Russia, you can't even say on trade because, we have the 15% baseline tariffs. Even foreign policy in the Middle East, I'm sure the EU is unhappy that the United States is not putting more pressure on Israel to allow the humanitarian aid into Gaza. I mean, just the list goes on and on. So when you talk about the common areas of interest and what specifically, what areas are you talking about at this stage? Because when you look at trade, foreign policy, what examples can you give?
I would disagree with your reading on the various points you mentioned. On Ukraine, we share a common interest with the US, which is the one of reaching a just and lasting peace with Ukraine, and we work with our member states, with our Ukrainian partners and with our US partners. In the sense, the coalition of the willing meeting of Tuesday testifies to this. The US was present and actively engaged. On the trade deal, Olaf can explain much better than I can, but it's a policy choice of the US towards its international partners. And here, once again, we are very convinced that we have obtained the best deal possible with an overall tariff and certainty for our companies. For the Middle East, we, of course, support a solution for Gaza and protection of the civilians, and we welcome the US engagement also in the sense. So in all these areas that you're mentioning, we do cooperate with our US partners. Do we have to agree on each and every step with our international partners? Of course not, but they remain strategic partners, and we work with them constructively in all areas possible. A number of hands raised, also from remote. I'll continue here from the press room. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Thomas Munnelson at Euractiv. I have a question about a comment that Executive Vice President Teresa Ribera made today on social media, where she said that the White House doesn't care about environment, health, or suffering of people. Peace, justice, cooperation, or prosperity are not among its priorities. Is this the official view of the Commission? And also, have you got any comment on the US decision to pull out of the Framework Convention on Climate Change announced yesterday? Thank you.
Look, we will not be commenting on a specific decision of the US administration. For what we can say is that from the European Union side and the Commission side, we continue to uphold our international commitments, and we will continue to play a leading role in the international fora in these aspects. I think on the UN climate agreement specifically you were referring to, Commissioner Hoekstra has made our views known already. I think it's Eva today that can perhaps refer to them if needed, but overall he has shared our position. We will, from our side, continue to support international climate research as the foundation of our understanding and work, and we will also continue to work on international climate cooperation. You have a follow-up.
Sorry, but I mean, does the Commission, do you agree with what Executive Vice President Ribera said about the White House not caring about the environment, the health, or the suffering of people? Do you agree or disagree? Thank you.
It's not for me to agree or disagree. It's not for me to speak on behalf of the US. What I can do is speak on behalf of the Commission and confirm our commitment to these international conventions. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you so much. Eleonora Vasquez from Euronews. I want to ask a very simple but complicated question. Why von der Leyen, of course the Commission, has the interest to deal with the US, consider it as a strategic partner right now? Is it because Europe has no choice, or because there are other reasons behind it? Thank you.
I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. I think it's evident that the US historically and at this time is a strategic partner of the European Union. It has always been and it continues to be. As I said, it doesn't mean we have to see exactly the same way on all topics, but there are many, many areas where we share common visions and common interests, and on that we actively work. From geopolitics to economics, there are many areas in which we can cooperate and which we do cooperate. You have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to stress the why, considering that despite historically, of course, is a strategic ally, but this alliance is shrinking. And so my question is why the Commission wants to keep considering the US as a strategic partner right now.
I think the European Union has an interest in pushing forward the interests of its citizens and in cooperating with our international partners at large. This goes through various means. It can be through trade agreements. It can be through geopolitical relations. It's not something that applies to the US only. We have many strategic partners. I will not be naming them, but of course there are many partners with whom we cooperate outside our union. Just now, our president is traveling in Jordan, tomorrow Syria and Lebanon, because all these are partners with whom the European Union wants to cooperate. Of course, different partners trigger actions and talks on different topics depending on where we have common areas in which we can work. With the US, there are many areas with, where we have a common interest in working, and it is in those areas that we work with them. With other partners, there are other areas, and we will engage with them constructively in the same manner. Therefore, it's not something that is unique to the EU-US relationship. It is a general approach of our union of wanting to cooperate internationally, always keeping at heart of our actions and policy initiatives the interest of our citizens and of our union. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Philip Bedosylvin with the Norwegian media Energi og Klima. The current Arctic strategy of the EU dates from 2021 and is focused on 3 pillars, namely climate change and protecting the environment, promoting sustainable development, and strengthening international cooperation. In regards to the situation in Greenland, does the Commission view this Arctic strategy as still fit to purpose, and does it plan to update it, perhaps drawing inspiration from the Parliament's INI report that was adopted in November? Thank you.
Thanks a lot. On the Arctic strategy specifically, I will see if my colleagues have more to add. What this allows me to say and to remind is that the European Union and Greenland have been close partners for decades. As you were mentioning, we have the strategy in place since 2021. And let me also remind you that in 2024, we have opened a permanent office of the European Union in Nuuk. This office allows us to work directly with the Greenlandic Authority and society because it is on the ground and active, and as you can see from its opening since 2 years ago, the importance that the European Union gives to our partnership with Greenland goes a long way. We have always invested in this relationship. We of course continue to pay attention to this matter. On the Arctic strategy, I don't know if Anita wants to add anything specifically. You are indeed right that it focuses on cooperation in priority areas, such as the ones you were mentioning. Anita or Marcos, would you have more to add? I think it is a strategy in which we are investing. Marcos can give you a number of figures on investments that we have made in concrete projects with Greenland. Also, an important part of our future budget is earmarked for investments in those areas. If you want, Marcos can provide you with details of it, but it is a dynamic relationship, and it is in this context that we continue to cooperate with Greenland. Go ahead, you have a follow-up.
Yes. I'm specifically interested in knowing if it is the view of the Commission in any way that it needs to incorporate a larger focus on security, and the current Arctic strategy barely mentions the United States' role in the Arctic. And in view of recent developments, I'm wondering if the Commission thinks that this should be a stronger focus going forward.
Thanks. I can refer you to what the President has said herself when she has given a speech at the Nordic Council. I believe it was end of October, early November, if I'm not mistaken with the timeline. What she has said is Europe must be more proactive and more invested in the Arctic. That is why we are reviewing our Arctic policy to address new geopolitical threats. Therefore, this is the sense of our work towards which we are going, continuing to invest in this strategic relationship we have with our Nordic partners and, of course, with Greenland. Go ahead.
Good morning, Vincenzo Genovese from Euronews. Still a US-related question. The Venezuela Interior Minister claimed there were 100 people died, including civilians, in the US raid in Caracas. Does the European Union condemn these killings? Thank you very much.
thanks. Let me see if there's other questions relating to Greenland before moving to Venezuela. I have a few hands raised from remote. Francesca. Francesca, you need to press on speak.
Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah, now yeah.
Great, thank you. Good morning. So, a question on Italy. The Italian media are reporting about the infringement procedure that was opened.
Francesca, we're discussing Greenland and foreign affairs, so I think it goes in another direction.
No.
Yeah, we'll come back to you. Federica from remote, is it about Greenland? Federica, if it's about Greenland, it's your moment.
Yes,
Please.
I'm sorry, I didn't activate the microphone. Now I'm there. Can you hear me?
So, but we will do our best.
Thank you, Arianna. I was just wondering if we are actually, if the European Commission is actually in the process of updating the Arctic strategy. Did I understand that well? Thank you so much.
I was referring to a speech by the President from the end of October, I believe. She has given a sense of direction. Of course, we have an Arctic strategy in place in 2021. We are investing in implementing it. And of course, we are aware of changing circumstances. Like always with our policies, we do take into account evolving context, and this is valid for the strategy as well. The President has indicated a sense of direction of work, and this is where the Commission is working towards. Then I wouldn't have more concrete announcements to make at this stage, but she has already said a couple of months ago what was the intention of the Commission. David, is it on this? Otherwise, I'll come back to the question on Venezuela.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Arianna. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. About the statement of Vice President Ribera, I would like to ask you if Vice President Ribera is speaking for the Commission or not. You mentioned Commissioner Hoekstra. His statement is quite different, so I would like to know if the statement of Vice President Ribera is made in line with the Commission position. And if I may, since you mentioned Syria and the trip of President von der Leyen, right now there are clashes in Aleppo with the government forces attacking the Kurdish minority. Will this be discussed or will have an impact on the mission of President von der Leyen? Thank you.
Thanks. On the first question, the Commission is composed of a college, and each college member has the possibility of expressing his or her views on the various topics, especially those topics where there is a portfolio interest. And here, clearly, we have a portfolio interest both by Executive Vice President Ribera and Commissioner Hoekstra. So it would not absolutely be for me to contradict either in expressing their views. As I said, our focus now is on confirming that we will uphold our international commitments in all these various conventions, and we will continue to play a leading role as we have done in the past and as we will strive to do also in the future. For what concerns Syria specifically, I'll see if Anwar has anything to add since we are changing topic, but I am not aware of any changes in the traveling plans of the President. She will meet the President tomorrow, as we have announced also yesterday in our daily news item. And clearly the security situation in Syria and the support that the European Union can give to it is one of the topics that will be discussed. We are there, of course, also for this. Anwar.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Ariana. Without prejudging the mission of the President, as Ariana just said, let me here recall our position in terms of the situation in Syria, which has been endorsed by the EU 27 heads of state and government at the latest European Council, where we have reiterated our support for a peaceful and inclusive transition in Syria, and we have underlined the importance of protecting the rights of Syrians from all ethnic and religious backgrounds without any discrimination. Now, on the issue of the clashes that you have been referring to, we are following with great concern the developments in and around Aleppo, especially the reports of civilian casualties. We call on all sides to exercise restraint, protect civilians, and seek a peaceful and diplomatic solution in line with the agreement that has been reached on the 10th of March 2025. I will also recall here that reaching stability across the country is a key element to ensuring a sustainable and inclusive transition that meets the aspirations of all Syrian people.
Thanks. I know I have a question pending on Venezuela, but since we started with the trip of the President to the Middle East, I see that Mose has a question on this from remote.
Yes, thank you very much, Musa Probasis Times. I also have a related question now when her trip to the region, to Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon is mentioned. As we know, she attended the opening of the Cyprus Air Presidency in Nicosia yesterday, and one issue which was stressed by all speakers, also by Cyprus, was of course that it can serve as a bridge between Europe and the Mediterranean and the Middle East countries. So I think it comes as a surprise now when she's traveling to the Middle East together with the Council President Costa. She seems to avoid, doesn't visit Israel. This time at least, although, there are many issues to discuss with them, and EU is so engaged in contributing to President Trump's peace plan. I wonder, is there a special reason for not traveling to Israel this time? And I would like also to ask in this context concerning, the deterioration in the situation in the West Bank, and also the lack of any progress in the transition to phase 2 of the peace plan in Gaza. What is your assessment on that? Yes, that's enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Mose. I'll leave, of course, the second part of the question to Anwar. For the first part of the question, absolutely no specific reason, meaning that it's not because the President is traveling to a region that she has to visit each and every country in that region. It's not something that is happening ever, and it's not something that is happening this time either. She is traveling to the region, first of all, because indeed the relationship with our Middle East partners are of strategic relevance. This is in line with the presidency indications, and is something the European Commission has been actively working on since many years. The strategic and comprehensive partnership with Jordan has been launched less than a year ago. It was end of January last year when King Abdullah II came to Brussels for the launch of this partnership. And very importantly, today is the first EU-Jordan summit. And this is why the President is visiting the region. Then with the occasion, she is indeed extending her traveling to other two countries in the area, which is, as you know, Syria and Lebanon. But there are many other strategic partners that we have in the areas and with whom we cooperate on various levels and occasions. Israel is a key interlocutor, of course, for the European Union. Anwar can confirm the many contacts that we have with Israel on the different topics that we will continue to have, of course, also now. Anwar.
No, indeed, Arena, I would just basically second what you have said, reinforcing also and recalling that the High Rep is, as we speak, also on the ground in the region in Egypt, showing full complementarity between different missions and traveling of our principles, both at President and High Representative level. So this is Global Europe and Geopolitical Commission in action. Now, on the settlements, we have been having a clear and long-standing position on the expansions of the settlements, starting with recalling that settlements are illegal under international law. And we have been calling on the government of Israel to reverse that decision no later than at the latest European Council of December. Further expanding these settlements across the West Bank risks having a knock-on effect on the fragile ceasefire in Gaza and threatens the viability of the two-state solution. The EU has also called on Israel to reverse the so-called E1 settlement plan that further undermines the two-state solution, and our position on the matter is quite clear. There is no other solution than the two-state solution to the situation that has been unfolding for way too long in the occupied territories and in Israel.
Thanks, Anwar. Mose, you have a quick follow-up. I would like to go back to the question on Venezuela and then close the Foreign Affairs chapter.
Okay, thanks. Just a quick follow-up. But that really illustrates, I mean, the reason behind my question, because neither High Representative Callas nor the Commission President is currently at least visiting a key country in the region. I mean, to discuss all these outstanding questions you mentioned. And it seems that EU is only, let's say, issuing statements, but not discussing them with Israel or trying to do anything else, I mean, to promote the peace plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Mose. I understand this is your view. This is not our view. What I have just said is quite to the contrary. We are active in the region and present at all levels with our principles and, of course, at diplomatic level constantly. Also in Israel, the occasions of engagements are multiple. Anwar can detail them to you bilaterally later if necessary. From our side, there's absolutely no specific reading in not visiting each and every country in a region when there is an occasion to travel there. Anwar.
Also, just to stress that at the core of diplomacy you have dialogue, and the dialogue is not necessarily with feet on the ground. You can also have it offline, online, and this is what is happening throughout all the year, across the board, across the globe, with the High Representative regular contacts with all her interlocutors, starting with, on the matter at hand, her interlocutor, the Israeli foreign minister, together with the regular contacts at the level of the president. So these are your words, Mose, but please also stay reassured that diplomacy happens also from Brussels and not necessarily in respective countries. Thank you.
Other questions on the Middle East or on the files Anwar covers? Not the case. Then let's go back to the question on Venezuela. Would you mind repeating it? Thanks, Anwar.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask if, as the...
Your microphone was cut.
Minister...
No, wait. Okay. Start
Sorry.
now. Thanks.
The Venezuelan Interior Minister claimed that 100 people, including civilians, died during the U.S. raid in Caracas. So I would like to ask you if the European Union condemns these killings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, we regret any of the deaths, any of the civilian casualties, while numbers remaining to be confirmed.
Other questions relating to Venezuela? Yes, go ahead.
It's not directly about Venezuela, but it's connected with oil. And United States forces, they boarded and seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker in Atlantic Ocean, which was allegedly involved in transporting of Iranian oil. In context of using shadow fleet to transporting Russian oil, is EU going to use this American-style approach to prevent transporting of Russian oil. Of course, the legal basis is different and the condition is different, but what do you think about this approach? And the second question, yesterday, Senator Lindsey Graham, he said that Trump green-lighted a new bill, a new sanction bill against Russia, which impose additional measures on country which buy Russian oil. Do you have some position on this bill? Thank you.
Thank you. Vitaly, you have mentioned several elements, but let's focus on the key element, and this is the Russian shadow fleet, where we share a common goal to sanction it and to also ensure that we curtail all those trying to circumvent our sanctions. We have listed sanctions in our 19 sanction package, but also before we have listed several of the shadow fleets. So if I'm looking to the numbers, we have now sanctioned over 597 vessels, and also I'm referring to the last FAC from December, where we have listed 41 more vessels, and the agreement of the EU Foreign Affairs Ministers has been also to have these vessels listed on a rolling basis. So the idea is to send a very strong message to Russia and to ensure that we are acting on stopping Russia from financing its war of aggression against Ukraine.
Other questions on this matter? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think the question is valid, and you didn't really answer it. If the EU is also going to take measures to actually stop these vessels, because sanctions are nice, but when it comes to enforcement, it clearly doesn't work. And if I remember correctly, this topic of the shadow fleet was front and center at the last EU summit. There are countries like France who would like to have a more proactive approach. So my question is quite simple: why is the EU not doing what the Americans just demonstrated in actually in the nearest neighborhood of the European Union?
We can speak about the EU, and we're always looking into what the EU is doing, and we're doing a lot. So when it comes to Russia, when it comes to sanctioning, when it comes to the first part of your question, this is obviously for the member states to board any of or inspect any of the sanctioned vessels. Maybe the one also for Vitaly. As such, because you have mentioned the bill, will not be commenting on the US bills, but as a general line, the more sanctions for Russia, the better.
And let me remind you that indeed we continue to work with our member states on the implementation of sanctions. It is their responsibility to implement them fully. The shadow fleet is something we have been very, very active on all our sanction packages. We know that it's a constant effort in updating our measures. They are constantly circumvented. It's in the nature of sanctions that the other part tries to circumvent, and then it's for us to take action to prevent these circumventions, and it's something that we have been doing with each and every sanction package. It's something we continue to actively look into, and also let me remind you that we have a special envoy for sanctions that works with our international partners. Of course, I'm referring to David O'Sullivan, to try to make sure that our sanctions are respected also internationally, and there Olaf can eventually provide further details. Oh, sorry, not Olaf anymore. It's Siobhan now. I need to get used to it if of interest. You have a follow-up. Go ahead. And I'm not sure if Vitaly had a follow-up. No, you answered already.
So if you are saying that it's in the responsibility of the member states if they want to board the vessels, does that mean that the legal basis makes it possible to actually board the vessels?
It's not what I said. I said that the sanctions implementation is a competence of member states, and that we, of course, proactively work with them constantly to make sure that all our sanctions are implemented in an effective manner with them. Anita, anything to? No? Okay. Other questions for Anita on foreign affairs? Yes, go ahead.
Sacha from NHK, the Japanese TV station. Can I just follow up on my colleague's question? Do you think this way of boarding and seizing a ship in the international waters is abiding by the international law?
It's not for us to say and judge actions of other international partners in this sense. Other questions for Anita? Momchil from Remote.
Hello, and my question is about the Russian shadow fleet also. So I just I would ask for clarification. Do the member state must, or the member state can board the vessels?
Again, it's for the member state to decide on the boarding or inspection in accordance with their own domestic legal framework.
You have a follow-up. You were running away, but changed your mind.
Yes, my question is quite simple. Does the sanctions regime, as a legal basis, allow member states to board and intercept vessels of the shadow fleet? Yes or no?
I'll have to look specifically into this and come back to you.
And of course, on top of sanction regime, we have other laws such as maritime right, etc., that need to be abided by. We're not in a position to comment now specifically which actions would or would not be in line. Of course, member states also have national legislation to respect. It's an assessment they make. What is important is that the necessary actions are taken to ensure that the sanctions measures are fully implemented in an effective manner to prevent from providing further oil to Russia's war machine. This is ultimately the goal of our sanctions. This is why the Commission also cooperates with the Member States to be effective in them. Now we're not in a position to provide you with a detailed analysis on what could or could not be in line with different member states' law. Anita will check if there's any specific reference in the legislation adopted so far, but also we would be entering into a speculation area on which we normally try not to enter. Therefore, I'm not sure that we would have much more to add. This is the last follow-up I give you because I think it's the fourth question already.
Yes, thank you. It's important still. Don't you think with this legalistic reasoning and yes or no, we are in cooperation, there's clearly a problem when it comes to enforcement of the sanctions, when it comes to this shadow fleet. And the Americans just demonstrated just outside of the European Union's borders how to approach this. Don't you fear that you're losing any credibility when it comes to enforcement of the sanctions against the shadow fleet?
The legalistic approach comes from your legalistic question, which was about the legal basis. We replied to the types of questions you ask us. If I consider sanctions to be ineffective, absolutely not. And there's evidence that shows that Russia is paying a high toll for all the sanctions packages that we have implemented. It's international data provided. You can see it yourself. And the efforts that Russia is putting forward to circumvent our sanctions actually just shows how our sanctions are biting into their economy. Is it a perfect system? Absolutely not. As I was saying, we constantly need to update our measures to make sure that the sanctions are as effective as possible and that circumvention is prevented. Shadow fleet is a core area in which we have been focusing our efforts. Now, I wouldn't remember out of the top of my head which sanction packages exactly include references to shadow fleet, but it is several, and with each and every one of them we have tightened our measures, and we will continue to do so. This is work that has been ongoing also in the European Council of December, and it is efforts that our member states are pursuing constantly together with us. Anita.
If I may also add, with the reference of our own shadow fleet coordinator that has been also announced last year with competencies on facilitating also contacts among the member states with a view to also identify opportunities for further intervention, also gather best practices. And again, back to your very legalistic question, hence our legalistic answer and approach. As such, it always depends where the ship is it territorial waters or not, but as such, on the 19th sanction package, we do not have this reference on the boarding, so this is again for the member states.
Other questions for Anita? No. Let's close the Foreign Affairs chapter, which has been already very long. We are left with some 15 minutes together. Razia, go ahead. If it's you, because I'm without glasses, so I'm guessing.
Thank you. I have a digital question, but I really want to say I also have a trade question, and it's not Mercosur, but I'll go with the trade one because it's more grand public. I think on Monday, Thomas had said that the EU Commission was seriously looking into the Grok situation. And so I wanted to know concretely what the European Commission is actually going to do, because there's been a bunch of MEPs that have called for an immediate formal investigation. I'm not sure whether that's immediately possible. Surely a request for information should be what you could do next. Any clarity would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Raz. I said it on Monday indeed. Let me repeat it again. We have witnessed Grok generating anti-Semitic content and, more recently, sexual imagery of children. I mean, this is illegal. This is unacceptable. I said it. This goes against Europe's values and our fundamental rights. And we take this very seriously. This is why I can confirm that the Commission has ordered X to retain all internal documents and data relating to Grok, and they have to do it until the end of 2026. This is in fact an extension of the retention order that we already sent to X last year when it comes to algorithms and recommender systems on the dissemination of illegal content. So this is a continuation of the measures that we have already taken and that I already announced on Monday, including the request for information, for which we received a reply from X and that we're currently analyzing it. And let me conclude by saying that the DSA is very clear. In Europe, all platforms have to get their own house in order, because what they are generating here is unacceptable, and compliance with EU law is not an option, it's an obligation.
Thanks, Thomas. Other questions on this topic specifically or digital? Go ahead.
Thank you. Anna Ströbler-Romero for Netzpolitik. So this question was asked already in December, but in light of the recent problems, I would like to ask it again. So is the Commission now maybe re-evaluating its presence on X? And if not, or also generally, how do you justify its presence there today? Thank you.
So indeed, the question was asked in December. The Commission is still active on X. That's a fact, but we're strongly diversifying. We're not only active on X, we're active on 14 or 16, I think it's 14 different social media platforms, including European ones. So, of course, X is not the only platform where we are active. We're more and more diversifying. And, of course, we keep monitoring our social media presence regularly, including when it comes to X.
And of course, we also assess where our public is more active themselves, and it's important for us to get our messages across to our public, and if our public is on X as well as on the other platforms, Thomas can eventually share with you bilaterally. I think they are 14, but indeed I'm not entirely sure of the figure. We will engage with them there. Go ahead, you have a follow-up.
Yes, thank you. So just to clarify, do these findings have an impact on decisions or on this monitoring, or what does it exactly mean when you say that you're monitoring the presence?
I mean, these findings, if you're referring to the DSA, the objective is to protect our citizens from societal risks online, to protect our kids, to protect our democracy, so really to tackle all societal risks that such social media platforms can present in the EU. That's the objective of the DSA. Now, in a separate trend, the Commission is then, of course, on doing its own homework and analyzing and assessing and monitoring its own social media presence. But that's a separate track. Our DSA enforcement is there to protect our citizens. Our social media presence is a separate track.
Questions on digital from remote, I believe. Jacob, is it for Thomas? Is it on this?
Yes, it's on this. Thank you. To follow up on that, I understand that you said the Commission is diversifying its presence, but will not withdraw from X. My question is, will the Commission continue to publish exclusive news on X? Because we've had several times announcements, for example, by the Commission President on X before she announced it on other media or social media. And that, of course, gives every EU citizen and journalist a strong incentive to continue to be on X, a platform that has openly been promoting anti-Semitic content and far-right content and also anti-EU content. So why does the Commission continue to give exclusive content and news on X instead of on?
If I can on this, I believe that what we have said is that currently we are present on X. Of course, we cannot prejudge future corporate decisions that may or may not be taken. As we say, we always strive to improve our social media presence. Nothing is set in stone. We evaluate as matters evolve. At this stage, we are present on X. If there has been exclusive announcements on X in the past, perhaps it was technical issues. In the recent past, at least for what I can recall, announcements are possibly made on social platforms, but not exclusively on X. For example, the President is always very active also on Blue Sky. If you don't have an account, I invite you to check, but usually the posts are spread across the different social media. Glitches may happen. I cannot confirm 100% that the same social media posts have been published at the same exact time on all platforms, but I can't recall such recent instances. And then, of course, if it is important announcements, we try not to make them on social media, but as well in our press corner or here at Midday or in public speeches. It depends really case by case. What we aim at is to get the information to you and to our citizens as fast and as effectively as possible. And this entails different tools at different times, depending on the content of the announcement, the timing of it, etc. But indeed, I don't think there is any exclusive or preferential treatment of the X platform compared to others. Jacob, you have a quick follow-up, because I still have many hands raised also on different topics.
Yes, just to follow up on that. So can we say basically the new Commission policy is that exclusive content will not be shared on X, but will be shared on other platforms first?
As I said, I don't think we're speaking of any new policy. We have always strived to use all the platforms in which we are active. The President has, since many months, presence on different social media. Now, I don't have an exact timeline in mind of when she has opened an account on different social media, but I'm very sure that it is not a very recent practice. As I said, I cannot confirm 100% that there has not been any glitch in the past. I would need to check each and every instance, but I can absolutely confirm that it is a long-standing practice of the Commission to make announcements on as many channels as possible at the same time. Thomas.
And also a long-standing practice not to do any paid promotion and paid advertising on X anymore. This has been enforced since 2023, important to recall.
Thanks. I see another question on digital Grok. I am not sure how to pronounce your name. Anupriya. Thank you, Thomas.
Hi, thanks for the question. I have a question as a follow-up on Grok, because on Monday, Thomas, you said the stuff on Grok is, quote, illegal, quote, disgusting. So I just want to know whether under the DSA there are any provisions to suspend Grok or stop Grok being used by EU citizens as an interim measure, and whether the Commission intends to explore that. Thank you.
Thanks, Anupriya. I mean, that's really an ultimate resort and possibility that we have under the DSA and foreseen by the legislation. That's not our privileged option. We're not here to suspend platforms. We're not here to tell citizens which platform is safer or better to use, which AI tool is better. That's really not the objective. Our objective, and as I told you just before, the objective is that to force every platform to put its own house in order. Generating such output is unacceptable and illegal in the European Union. It's X's responsibility to take care of Grok and make sure that this is not generated. So this is the focus that we have with the DSA, rather than suspending any platform in the EU.
Thanks, Thomas. Question for Thomas in the back, and then we come to the first row.
Thanks, Sarah Brandstätter from MLEX. Follow-up question on this Grok story. Does X have any specific deadline to hand in these internal documents and also algorithm-related data? Because you only said that they'll have to preserve it until the end of the year. Thanks.
Yes, so that's, let me explain briefly the framework here. So every platform has, of course, internal document at its disposal that they have for the different tools they have, including for Grok. What we're asking here is, let's be very clear, this is not an opening of a formal investigation on the DSA. This is really here saying to a platform, keep your internal document, don't get rid of them, because we have doubts about your compliance, otherwise we wouldn't have sent an RFI, and we need to be able to have access to them if we request it explicitly. So this is why here X now has the time frame of 1 year, so until the 31st of December 2026, where they have to retain all internal documents relating to Grok.
Thanks. Last question on digital, and then perhaps we go to trade, since we have just a few minutes left together. Go ahead.
Hi, James Cantor from the Media EU Scream. Ariana, you said that the Commission continues to post to X because you want to meet people where they are, but that doesn't make a huge amount of sense because we also know that the European institutions and the Commission President herself, you have an enormous convening power. Were you to stop posting on X, everybody would go for their news immediately to another platform. So you can meet people, no problem, wherever you choose to be. So can you tell me what really is holding you back from making that choice, given what my colleagues have asked about, which is the anti-Semitism, the child porn, and, of course, the other sort of hateful things that are going on Elon Musk's platforms? Thank you.
Thanks. I think we can take note of your suggestion. From our side, we are actively engaged on 14 different platforms. This, at this stage, includes X. As I was saying before, I cannot prejudge corporate decisions that might not be taken in the future. What we are doing is we're taking decisive action when we see there is a specific issue, such as the unacceptable one that Thomas was referring to at the beginning of his intervention on the podium. And this is where we take action. Further considerations at this stage is not something that we can go into. Let's move to trade questions. Otherwise, I will not be able to take them. Let's go ahead, and then Rosia, since you already had one. Go ahead.
Daniel NZZ in Winkelried. A question about the Mercosur trade. Maybe you manage it to vote about it tomorrow, but it will be against France, economically number 2 in the EU. So what does that mean for other trade agreements, maybe, for example, with Australia? Agriculture export will be a huge topic there also, but how can you this strategy of diversification with trading partners when one big countries or even more are against more agriculture imports into the EU, because this country will always say we want to export to the EU. That's for an agreement.
Thanks for your question. Happy New Year, everyone. It's good to be back. Look, there's a few things I would like to point out in response to your question. The first is that, and you've heard me say it from this podium before, the European Union's agricultural priorities are front and centre in every trade negotiation we make, every single one. What does that mean? It means in every single trade negotiation, we push as hard as we can to get the best possible market access for our world-leading agri-food exports. And we have succeeded in doing that to the tune of an agri-trade surplus of 60 billion euros per year. I don't think that statistic can ever be repeated enough. So I'm going to say it again. Because of the priority we place on opening new agri-food markets for our farmers, for our agri-food exporters, we sell 60 billion euros worth more of stuff than we buy from our partners around the world. That's an astonishingly successful statistic by any economic metric. The second point is that when it comes to our more sensitive agricultural sectors, there too we negotiate like hell. What do I say when I mean that? I mean that we make sure that every possible protection is built in to the agreements so that in the event that there is any type of harmful surge in imports in those sensitive sectors, or we can see that there is some economic damage being done to our farmers and our agribusiness operators, then those safeguards click in to protect them. As well as that, we have a vast agricultural reserve, which we have proposed to radically increase in size in our next budget, that is there as an insurance policy for our farmers in the worst case scenarios. Now let's talk about Mercosur. You're referring to a potential discussion among member states. That's for member states to decide on, and we look forward to them doing so at a time of their choosing. But let's think about the process for EU trade deals. In each EU trade deal, the member states give the Commission a mandate to negotiate on behalf of the citizens, on behalf of the member states. Next, when the Commission concludes political negotiations for a trade deal, that is then voted on by member states, voted on by the Parliament, in full democratic procedures, according to democratic procedures that were decided on by the same member states and MEPs. So you're saying to me, what does it mean if one or more member states are opposed to a trade agreement? It means that one or more member states is opposed to a trade agreement. But the democratic procedure to move a trade, to agree or not agree on a trade agreement was decided on by our member states, by our European Parliament. So it's democracy in action is the short answer to your question. We've made the case for the Mercosur agreement here, including from this podium many times. We believe it's an essential deal economically, politically, strategically, diplomatically for the European Union. And we believe that with the additional safeguards and protections we've put in place over the past 12 months, in particular to reassure our farming and agri-food constituencies that we now have a deal on the table that can be supported in full confidence by all our member states and by all our economic constituencies.
Other questions on trade? Razia, I think it's going to be our last question for today, since it's been an hour we are together.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, because we have Minister Goyal of India in town, should we take his visit to Brussels as an indication that the talks are going well, and so we will get an agreement signed on January the 27th? Or should we understand it that it's going badly? And if so, what are the sticking points? And I ask this because France, Germany and Poland yesterday called for the rapid signing of the deal, and I quote Jean-Noël Barrot when he says, is expected to be finalised in the coming weeks. So a big member state has actually said that it's, they're expecting it to be finalised. So I'm hoping that you can give a bit more than trade talks are just ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Razia. You are correct that India and the Indian Trade Minister, Piyush Goyal, is in town to meet with our Trade Commissioner, Maroš Šefčovič. Those meetings are happening today and tomorrow. I'm not going to provide any more details on those meetings as they haven't happened yet, but we're certainly optimistic that those meetings will play a part in moving the process forward towards getting this trade agreement, which we believe is a very important and meaningful one, over the line. I'm not going to go into details on where we stand in the negotiations now. I'm not going to make any pronunciations on where we are in terms of getting it over the line, because as Commissioner Šefčovič himself likes to say, the last mile is the hardest, and the important thing is that we get the substance right over the speed. But the meetings will take place today and tomorrow, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks, everyone. This brings us to the end of our midday briefing. Let me thank all of you for having participated, the interpreters, all my colleagues. We will see you again tomorrow for our next midday. Goodbye.